In this video, we are going to talk about India on the eve of British conquest. The first half of the 18th century saw the decline of the mighty Mughals, who had been the envy of their contemporaries for almost 2 centuries. The reign of Aurangzeb starts from 1658 till 1707, proved to signify the beginning of the end of the Mughal rule in India. It is argued that the Aurangzeb's misguided policies weakened the stability of the state, and the decline gained momentum after his death due to the wars of succession and weak rulers. Though Muhammad Shah ruled for a long spell of 29 years from 1719 to 48, a revival of the imperial fortunes did not take place as he was an incompetent ruler, and Muhammad Shah's reign witnessed the establishment of the independent states of Hyderabad, Bengal, Awadh and Punjab. Several local chiefs began to assert their independence, and the Marathas began to make their bid to inherit the imperial mantle. First of all, let me know the challenges before the Mongols. We will cover the first external challenges. What are the external challenges before the Mongols? In the absence of their internal strength, the Mongols cannot put a tough front against the external challenges, which came in the form of several invasions from the northwest, and the northwestern borders has been neglected by the later Mongols, and not much effort was expended in protecting the border. Nadir Shah, the Persian emperor, attacked India in 1738-39, conquered Lahore and defeated the Mughal army at Karnal on February 13, 1739. Later, the Muhammad Shah was captured and Delhi looted and devastated. According to an estimate part from the Peacock throne and the Kohinoor diamond, 70 crore rupees were collected for the official treasury and the chiefs of the rich nobles. Nadir Shah gained the strategically important Mughal territory to the west of the Indus, including Kabul. Thus, though India once again became vulnerable to the attacks from the northwest. Ahmed Shah Abdali, or Ahmed Shah Durrani, who was elected the successor of Nadir Shah after the latter's death in 1747, invaded India several times between 1748 and 1769. He continuously harassed the Mughals to try to buy peace in 1751-52 by ceding Punjab to him. In 1757, Abdali captured Delhi and left behind an Afghan caretaker to watch over the Mughal emperor. Before his return, Abdali has recognized Alamgir II as the Mughal emperor and the Rohilla chief Najabuddin Dawla as Mir Bakshi of the empire, who was to act as personal supreme agent of Abdali. In 1758, Najabuddin Dawla was expelled from Delhi by the Maratha chief Raghunath Rao, who also captured Punjab. In 1759, Ahmed Shah Abdali returned to India to take revenge on the Marathas. In 1761, Abdali defeated the Marathas in the Third Battle of Panipat. The last of Abdali's invasion came in 1767. Now we are going to discuss weak rulers after Aurangzeb. These are internal challenges. So first of all, we will start from Bahadur Shah I, 1709 March to 1712. After a nearly 2 long year war of succession, the 63-year-old Prince Muazzam, the eldest son of Aurangzeb, became the emperor, taking the title of Bahadur Shah. He was later called the Bahadur Shah I. He had killed his brothers Muhammad Azam and Kam Baksh in the war of succession. Kafi Khan gave the title of Shahi-be-Khabar to Bahadur Shah. He adopted a pacific policy with the Marathas and Rajputs and Jatas. Shahu, the Maratha prince, was released from Mughal captivity. The Rajput chiefs were confirmed in their respective status. However, the Sikh leader Banda Bahadur attacked the Muslims in Punjab, and hence the emperor took an action against him. Bahadur Shah I died in February 1712. Jahandar Shah, March 1712 to February 1713. With the help of Zulfikar Khan, Jahandar Shah became the emperor, and Zulfikar Khan was appointed as a prime minister. He introduced Izara system to improve the financial condition of the empire. Jahandar Shah abolished jizya. Now Farrukh Shah. Its reign started from 1713 to 1719. After killing Jahandar Shah, with the help of Saeed brothers Abdullah Khan and Hussain Ali, known as kingmakers, Farrukh Shah became the new emperor. He followed the policy of religious tolerance by abolishing jizya and pilgrimage tax. In 1717, he gave the farmans to the British, and in 1719, the Said brothers, with the help of Peshwa Balaji Vishwanath, dethroned Farrukh Shah. Later, he was blinded and killed. It was the first time in the Mughal history that the emperor was killed by his nobles. Now Rafi'ud Darjat, February 28 to June 4, 1719. He ruled for the shortest period among the Mughals. Rafi'ud Dawla, June 6 to September 1719. The Said brothers placed Rafi'ud Dawla with the Shah Jahan II on the throne. The new emperor was an opium addict. Now Muhammad Shah, 1709 to 48. After the death of Rafi'ud Dawla, Roshan Akhtar became the choice of Said brothers. Muhammad Shah, as he came to be known in history, was given the title of Rangila due to his luxurious lifestyle. Muhammad Shah, with the help of Nizam ul-Muluk, killed the Said brothers. In 1724, Nizam ul-Muluk became the Wazir and founded the independent state of Hyderabad. In 1737, Baji Rawan, the Maratha Peshwa, invaded Delhi with a small army of 500 horsemen. In 1739, Nadir Shah defeated the Mughals in the Battle of Karnal and later imprisoned Muhammad Shah and annexed areas west to the Indus into the Persian Empire. After that, Ahmad Shah's reign starts from 1748 to 1754. Ahmad Shah was an incompetent ruler who left the state affairs in the hands of Udambai, the Queen Mother. Udambai, given the title of Kabilai Alam, was a lady of poor intellect who ruled with the help of her paramour, Javed Khan, a notorious envious. After that, Alamgir II, 1754 to 1758. Alamgir II was the grandson of Jahandar Shah. Ahmad Shah Abdali, the Irani invader, reached Delhi in January 1757. During the reign, the Battle of Plassey was fought in June 1757. After that, the Shahi Jahan III's reign starts from 1758 to 1759. After that, Shah Alam II, 1759 to 1806, his reign sought two device battles: the Third Battle of Panipat, 1761, and the Battle of Buxar, 1764. In 1765, according to the terms of Treaty of Allahabad, August 1765, he was taken under the East India Company protection and resided at Allahabad. He also issued Farma getting to the company in perpetuity the Diwani, the right to collect revenue of Bengal, Bihar and Odisha. In 1772, the Maratha took from to Delhi, where he lived till 1803. In 1803, he again accepted the protection of English after the defeat of Daulat Rao Sachinda by the English. Afterwards, the Mughal emperors became the pensioners of the English. Akbar II. Akbar II's reign starts from 1806 to 37. He gave the title of Raja to Ram Mohan Roy. In 1835, the coins bearing the names of Mughal emperors were stopped. After that, Bahadur Shah II, 1837 to 1857. Bahadur Shah II, or Bahadur Shah Zafar being his surname, was the last Mughal emperor. The revolt of 1857 had made the futile attempt to declare him the Emperor of India. He was captured by the English and sent to Rangaon, where he died in 1862. In legal terms, the Mughal Empire came to an end on November 1, 1858, with the declaration of Queen Victoria. Now let me know what are the causes of decline of Mughal Emperor. So, why the Mughal Empire decline has been a subject to debate among the historians. Scholarly opinion can be divided along the two broad lines: those who view the matter as generally empire related and those who regard the developments as region related. The empire related or Mughal centric view sees the causes of decline within the structure and functioning of the empire itself. The region related views find the causes of Mughal decline in the turmoil and instability in the different parts of the empire. The decline was due to the both aspects. The process of disintegration of Mughal Empire began during the reign of Aurangzeb, but it picked up momentum after his death in 1707. At his death, conditions were not such that the process of decline could not be checked, although Mughal authority was challenged by several chiefs and rulers. None could assert independence in the face of imperial might. The Sikhs, Marathas and Rajputs did not possess the capacity to overthrow the empire. They merely restricted Mughal power to gain and keep their independence in their respective territories. Thus, if the successors of Aurangzeb had been capable rulers, the empire might not have fallen. Most of the emperors who came after the Aurangzeb proved to be incapable, weak and licentious, and the monarchs who hastened the process of disintegration of the empire, and finally it collapsed. The major factors which contribute to the downfall of the Mughal Empire are discussed, like the shifting allegiance of zamindars. Two classes shared the power of the state with the emperor during the medieval period: the zamindars and the nobles. Zamindars were the hereditary owners of their lands who enjoyed their privileges on heredity basis and were variously known as Rayas, Rajas, Thakuras, Kuthas, and Deshmukhs. They occupied an important place in the empire because they helped in the collection of revenue and in local administration, for which they maintained soldiers. Though the Mughals had tried to curb the power of the zamindars and maintain direct contact with the peasants, they had not wholly succeeded. During the reign of Aurangzeb itself, there was a marked increase in the power and influence of the zamindars. The biggest fallout of this was the regional loyalties were encouraged. Many local zamindars helped the nobility, the other powerful classes within the empire, to take advantage of the weakness of the empire and carve out independent kingdoms for themselves. After that, Jagidari crisis starts. The nobility comprised people who were either assigned large jagirs and mansabs or appointed shobdas of Mughal subas and given the responsibility of maintaining these. To this class belonging many Rajput rulers, Shubdas and Mansabdars. Mughal rule has often been defined as the rule of the nobility because these nobles played in central role in administering the empire. Although Akbar had provided a well-kent organization for them, there was divisiveness among the nobility on the basis of religion, homeland, and tribe, and each category formed a group of its own. Mutual rivalry, jealousy, and contest for power among the various groups during the rule of the later Mughals, in the absence of the strong central leadership, not only reduced the prestige of the emperor but also contributed to the decline of the empire. Now the rise of regional aspirations. Aurangzeb's reign itself witnessed powerful regional groups like the Jatas, Sikhs, and Marathas defying the authority of the Mughal state in their bid to create kingdoms of their own. They did not succeed in their efforts, but they influenced the future course of political events in their respective regions. Their continuous struggle against the empire for the political ascendancy weakened the empire considerably. So the Aurangzeb and after him Bahadur Shah won by attempting to surpass the Rajputs, so suffered them to battle against the Mughals, and later the Mughals made an effort to follow a policy of reconciliation with Rajputs, but by then it was already too late. The Rajputs no longer trusted the Mughals enough to ally with them for the welfare of the empire, and the Marathas too were becoming the formidable enemy. Their aim was to first limited on to regaining control over the regions of Maharashtra, but it soon went to include getting local sanction from the Mughal emperor for collecting Sardeshmukhi and Chaut throughout India. They forged northwards and by 1740s succeeded in spreading their influence over the provinces of Gujarat, Malwa, and Bundelkhand. The Rajputs struggle against the empire, and the growing ambition and powers of the Marathas thus adversely affected the Mughal might. Now the economic and administrative problems. The number of amirs and their ranks or mansabs had increased sharply over time. There was little and left to be disturbed among them as Jagirs. Aurangzeb tried to solve the problem of acute shortage of Jagirs or Bejagiri by showing enhanced income from the Jagirs on record, but this wasn't short-sighted measure, as the emirs tried to recover their recorded income from their Jagirs by pressurizing the peasantry. So both the emirs and the peasantry were antagonized. They were there were the wars and luxurious lifestyle of the emperors, and amiss like the reduction in Khalisa land, all of which burdened the state. The result was that the expenditure of the state much exceeded its income. There was moreover no significant scientific and technological advance that could have improved a stagnant economy. The once flourishing trade did not enrich the empire's coffers, even as the inroads by European traders grew along coastal India. These economic and administrative problems only multiplied. Following the death of Aurangzeb, the empire had become too vast to be efficiently administered by the centralized system when the rulers were weak and incompetent. Now we know about rise of regional status, how it take place. The states that emerged as a result of the decline of the Mughal emperor can be classified into the three categories. One is successor status. These were the Mughal provinces that turned into the states after breaking away from the empire. Though they did not challenge the sovereignty of the Mughal ruler, the establishment of virtually independent and hereditary authority by their governors showed the emergence of autonomous polity in these territories. Some examples are Awadh, Bengal and Hyderabad. Now second one is independent kingdoms. These states came into the existence primarily due to the destabilization of the Mughal control over the provinces, example being Mysore and the Rajput states. Now the third, the new states. These were the states set up by the rebels against the Mughal Empire, examples being the Maratha and the Sikh and the Jat states. Now we are going to discuss about the regional kingdoms like Hyderabad. First of all, we will discuss about Hyderabad. The founder of the Asif Jah House of Hyderabad was Kilish Khan, popularly known as Nizam-ul-Mulk. It was a Zulfikar Khan who had first conceived the idea of independent state in the Deccan. But with his death in 1713, the dream remained unfulfilled. Kilish Khan, disgusted with the Mughal Emperor, who had appointed Mubarak Khan as a full-fledged viceroy of Deccan, decided to fight Mubarak Khan. He defeated and later killed Mubarak Khan in the Battle of Shakar Kheda, 1724. He now assumed control of the Deccan. In 1725, he became the viceroy and conferred on himself the title of Asif Jah. After that, Awadh, the founder of the independent principality of Awadh, was Sadat Khan, popularly known as Burhanul Muluk. Sadat Khan was a Shia. He had joined a conspiracy against the Sayyid brothers, which resulted in his being given an increased mansab. Later driven out from the court, he was prompted to found a new independent state. Sadat Khan committed suicide due to the pressure from Nadir Shah, who was demanding a huge booty from him. He was succeeded by Safdar Jang as a Nawab of Awadh. Now the third is Bengal. Murshid Quli Khan was the founder of independent state of Bengal. He was a capable ruler and made Bengal a prosperous state. He was succeeded in 1727 by his son Sujauddin. His successor Sarfaraz Khan was killed in 1740 by Alwadri Khan, the deputy governor of Bihar at Gira, who assumed power and made himself independent of the Mughal emperor by giving yearly tribute. Now the Rajputs. Rajputs tried to re-establish their independence in the 18th century. This forced the Mughal ruler Bahadur Shawan to march against the Ajit Singh 1708, who had formed an alliance with the Jai Singh II and Durgadas Rathore. But the alliance was broken and the situation was saved for the Mughals. At one time, the Rajputs controlled the entire territory extending from the south of Delhi up to the western coast. Now Mysore. Another important state to make its appearance in the 18th century was that Mysore. This territory, located at the junction of eastern and western Ghats, was ruled by the Vodiyas. Various powers interested in the territory turned the area into the constant battlefield. In the end, Mysore state was brought under the rule of Hyder Ali, who ruled the state but not without trouble. He was involved in the constant warfare with the British, and so was his son Tipu Sultan. Now the Kerala. Martanda Varma established an independent state of Kerala with Travancore as his capital. He extended the boundaries of his state from Kanyakumari to Cochin. His efforts was made to recognize his army along with the western model and adapted to various measures to develop his state. Now the Jats. The agriculture Jat settlers living around the Delhi, Mathura and Agra revolted against the oppressive policies of Aurangzeb. After some initial setbacks, Churaman and Badan Singh succeeded in setting up the Jat state of Bharatpur, but it was under the Suraj that the Jat power reached its zenith. He not only proved an efficient system of administration but also greatly extended the territory of the state. His state included the territories from Ganga in the east to Chambal in the south and included the Subhas of Agra, Mathura, Meerut and Aligarh. However, the Jat state suffered a decline after the death of Surajmal in 1763. Thereafter, the state split into the small areas controlled by petty zamindars who mainly lived by the plunder. Now the Sikhs. Guru Gobind Singh transformed the Sikh into the militant sect in the defense of their religion and liberties. Banda Bahadur, who later assumed the leadership of the Sikh in 1708, was defeated and killed. In the wake of the invasions of Nadir Shah and Ahmad Shah Abdali, the Sikh once again asserted their authority. At this stage, they organized themselves into 12 mislis or confederacies, which exercised control over the different parts of the kingdom. The credit for establishing a strong kingdom of Punjab goes to Ranjit Singh. He was the son of Mahan Singh, the leader of the Sukar Chaikya misl. Ranjit Singh but under the control, the area extended from the Sutlej of the Jhelum. He conquered Lahore in 1799 and Amritsar in 1802. By the Treaty of Amritsar with the British, Ranjit Singh acknowledged the British right over the Sutlej territories. So the Ranjit Singh proved to be an efficient administrator. He greatly modernized his army with the help of the Europeans, but towards the close of his reign, the English forced him to sign the Tripartite Treaty in 1838 with the Shah Suja and the English Company, whereby he agreed to provide passage to the British troops through Punjab with a view to placing Shah Suja on the throne of Kabul. Ranjit Singh died in 1839. His successors could not keep the state intact, and soon enough the British took control over it. Now the Marathas. The Marathas, perhaps the most formidable province to emerge, was that of the Marathas under the capable leadership of the Peshwas. The Marathas uprooted the Mughal authority from Malwa and Gujarat and established their rule. At one time they claimed the right to be the chief inheritors of the Mughal dominion, but their authority was challenged by Ahmad Shah Abdali in the Third Battle of Panipat 1761. The Marathas quickly recovered from the defeat and offered the most formidable challenge to the English East Company in the struggle of political supremacy in India. Now the Rohilkhand and Farrukhabad, the states of Rohilkhand and the kingdom of Bangesh Pathans were a fallout of the Afghan migration into the India. Large-scale immigration of Afghans into the India took place in mid-18th century because of the political and economic turmoil in Afghanistan. Ali Muhammad Khan took advantage of the collapse of the authority in North India following Nadir Shah's invasion to set up the petty kingdom Rohilkhand. This was the area of Himalayan foothills between the Kamau in the north and the Ganga in the south. The Rohilas, as the inhabitants of Rohilkhand were known, suffered heavily at the hands of the other powers in the area, the Jats and the Awadh rulers, and later the Marathas and the British. Muhammad Khan Bangesh and Afghans set up an independent kingdom to the east of the Delhi in the area around Farrukhabad during the regions of Farrukshire and Muhammad Shah. Now we are going to know about the nature and the limitations of the regional states. The independent political systems that emerged in the provinces continued to maintain ties with the Mughal imperial authority and acknowledged the emperor's importance as an umbrella. Even rebel chieftains of the Marathas and Sikhs recognized the Mughal emperor as the supreme authority. The polity that emerged in these states was regional in character and functional, with the collaborative support of the different local groups like the zamindars, merchants, local nobles and chieftains. The provincial rulers had to take care of these various local interests in order to maintain themselves. Of course, there were exceptions. For instance, in Mysore, ruler did not recognize the local chieftains. The regional states had certain limitations. The provincial rulers failed to develop a system based on sound financial, administrative and military organization, though some of them are tried to modernize, notably Mysore. On the whole, they were backward in science and technology. After the drawback, the constant warfare these states had with the neighboring regional powers was in which none could ultimately dominate. In fact, these states were strong enough to challenge Mughal power, but none was able to replace it with the stable polity at an all-India level. The Jagidari Crisis intensified. The income from agriculture declined, and the number of contenders for the share of surplus multiplied. Through the trade, internal and foreign, continued without the disruption and even prospered. The rest of the economy stagnated. Now we are going to discuss socio-economic conditions. 18th century India failed to make the progress economically, socially or culturally at an adequate pace. India became a land of contractors because of the extreme poverty and extreme luxury existed side by side. The common populace remained impoverished, backward and oppressed, and living in the bare subsistence level. The rich and the powerful enjoyed the life of luxury and lavishness, but it is worth noting that the life of Indian masses was by and large better in the 18th century than it was after 100 years of the British rule. Now the agriculture. Though agriculture was technically backward, it was worked by the hard labor of peasants, but this hard-working class seldom gets the fruits of their labor. Even though the agriculture produce supported the rest of the society, a peasant's own reward was miserable, inadequate. They were forced to pay exorbitant amounts to the state, the zamindars, the jagirdars and the revenue farmers, but this worsened under the British rule. Now, trade and industry. On the account of being self-sufficient in handicrafts and agriculture products, India did not import foreign goods on at a large scale. On the other hand, its industrial and agricultural products were good in demand in foreign markets, hence its exports were more than its imports. Trade was balanced by imports of silver and gold. India was known as sink of precious metals. Items of import like the Persian Gulf region. In the Persian Gulf region, pearls, raw silk, wool, dates, dried fruits, and rose water. So these types of items are imported from Persian Gulf, and in from Arabia, coffee, gold, drugs, and honey. They are imported from Arabs, and China, tea, sugar, proclain, and silk. And in Tibet, gold, musk, and the woolen cloth. And also in Africa, ivory and drugs. And from Europe, woolen cloth, copper, iron, lead, and paper. Now talking about the items of export: cotton textiles, raw silk and silk fabrics, hardware, indigo, salt plate, opium, rice, wheat, sugar, pepper, and other species, precious stones, and drugs. Now we are going to discuss important trade centers of textile industry, like they are located in Dhaka, Murshidabad, Patna, Surat, Ahmedabad, Bharuch, Chanderi, Burhanpur, Jaunpur, Varanasi, Lucknow, Agra, Multan, Lahore, Masulipatam, Aurangabad, Chikakul, Vishakhapatnam, Bangalore, Coimbatore, Madurai, etc. And Kashmir was the center of woolen manufactures. Now shipbuilding industry: Maharashtra and Andhra region and the Bengal were the leaders in shipbuilding. Indian shipping also flourished on the Kerala coast at Calicut and Koilin. The Zamorin of Calicut used to Muslim Konjali Marikars, who were well known for their seafaring ability of his navy. Shivaji Bhonsle navy put up a good defense on the west coast against the Portuguese. According to the Bipin Chandra, the European companies bought many Indian made ships for their use. Now the states of education. The education imported in 18th century India was still traditional, which could not match with the rapid developments in the West. The knowledge was confined to literature, law, religion, philosophy, and logic, and excluded the study of physical and natural sciences, technology, and geography. In fact, due to the over-reliance placed in ancient learning and original thought got discouraged. Elementary education among the Hindus and Muslims were quite widespread. The Hindu and Muslim elementary schools were called the Pathshalas and Maktabas respectively. The education was confined to reading, writing, and arithmetic. Children from the lower caste sometimes attended the schools, but female presence was rare. Chatupatis and or Tolos. They were called in Bihar and Bengal, where the centers of higher education are located. Some of the famous centers of Sanskrit education were Kasi, Varanasi, Trihut, Mithalia, Naida, and Utkala. Madrasas were the institutions of higher learning for Persian and Arabic, Persian being a court language and learned by the Muslims as well as the Hindus. Azimabad, Patna was a famous center for Persian education. People interested in the study of Quran and Muslim theology had to acquire proficiency in Arabic. Now the social setup. Many castes, many sects took place in the society of 18th century. India was characterized by traditional outlook and stagnation. Though there existed a certain degree of broad cultural unity, people were divided by caste, religion, origin, tribe, and language. The family system was primarily patriarchal, and caste was the central feature of the social life of the Hindus. Apart from the four Varnas, Hindus were divided into the numerous subcastes, which permanently fixed their place in the social scale, though the choice of profession was mainly determined by the caste considerations. Acceptations occurred on the large scale, making caste status quite fluid in some parts of the country. Caste councils and panchayats enforced caste norms and regulations. Even though Islam enjoyed the social equality on Muslims, they too were divided in considerations of caste, race, tribe, and status. Religious considerations not only kept in Sunni and Shia nobles, apart from also the Irani, Afghani, Turani, and Hindustani Muslim nobles and officials apart from one another. The Sharif Muslims, consisting of nobles, scholars, priests, and many army affairs, often looked down upon the Ajlaf Muslims over the lower classes. Muslims in a manner similar to the way of the higher castes. Hindus treated the lower caste Hindus, and religious conversations occurred, and the castes proved to be the major diverse force and element of disintegration in the 18th century. Now the position of women in society. In the patriarchal family system in India, except in the some social groups of Kerala, women possessed little individuality of their own. Though there were a few exceptions, while upper class women remained at home and lower class women worked in the fields and outside their homes, supplementing their family income. Certain outdated and exploitative social customs and traditions, such as parda sati, child marriage, polygamy, did not exist, which hindered the progress of women. The plight of Hindu widow was usually miserable, and the evil of dowry was especially widespread in Bengal and Rajputana. Sensitive Indians were often touched by the hard and harsh life of the widows. Raja Savai Jesha of Amber and the Maratha general Parashuram Bahu tried to promote widow remarriage but failed. Now the means of slavery. European travelers and administrators who came in 17th century reported the widespread prevalence of slaves in India. It is believed that some people were compelled to sell their children or offspring due to the economic distress, famines, and natural climates and extreme poverty. Generally, higher classes of the Rajputs, Katharis and Kashiras kept women slave for domestic work. However, the status of slaves in India was better than that in Europe. Slaves were usually treated as hereditary servants rather than the menials. Marriages took place among the slaves, and their offspring coming out of such wedlock were considered free citizens, and the advent of Europeans heightened the slavery and slave trade in India. European trading companies purchased their slaves from the markets of Bengal, Assam and Bihar, and took them to the European and American markets. ASEAN slaves were sold at Surat, Madras and Calcutta. Now the developments in art and architecture and culture. The decline of the imperial Mughals forced talented people to seek the patronage of newly established status courts like Hyderabad, Lucknow, Jaipur, Murshidabad, Patna, Kashmir, etc. At Lucknow, Asifud Dawla built the Bada Imambara in 1784. In the first half of the 18th century, Savai Jai Singh built the pink city of Jaipur and 5 astronomical observations at Delhi, Jaipur, Benares, Mathura and Ujjain. He also prepared a set of timetables called the Jij Muhammad Shahi to help the people in the study of astronomy. In the south, in Kerala, the Padma Bahapuram place, famous for its architecture and mural paintings, was constructed, and the new schools of painting were born and achieved distinction, and the paintings of Rajputana and the Kangra schools became prominent and revealed new vitality and taste. And the distinct feature of literary life of the 18th century was the growth of Urdu language and poetry. It was the period of Urdu poets like Mir Sauda Nazir and Mirza Ghalib. 19th century. In the South India, Malayalam literature flourished under the patronage of Travancore rulers. Kanchan Nayamba was a noted Malayalam poet, and the Tamil language was enriched by star poetry. And Taya Manwar, 1706 to 44, one of the best exponents of the star poetry, protested against the abuses of temple rule and the caste system. And Heer Ranja, the romantic epic in Punjabi literature, was composed by Waris Shah. In Sindhi literature, Shah Abdul Latif composed Risalo, a collection of poems. These are just an examples of literary works in the regional language. I hope you find this video informative. Thank you for watching.